your website doesn't need to convince them that they already need your thing, because they are already aware of that. If they're truly your ideal client ready to hire, they need to be convinced about like why you specifically, so your method, your IP, like your whatever your unique selling proposition is, your philosophy, maybe it's your personality and fit isn't coming in through that way. That needs to come through a lot stronger so that they feel clear about why they should choose you and why they think you are probably the best fit to help them get to the place they want to go versus anyone else. So you're kind of wasting a lot of space if you're convincing them of something that they already know.
Hey, welcome back to Coffee Chats Podcast. I am your host, Tahjma VanBuren, and I am so excited for you to be introduced if you don't already know. And if you already know who she is, I have a guest for you who does all things copywriting. Now, we all know that I come from a background of blogging. However, writing is not my jam. I do it for fun off to the side, and I'm pretty sure I saw something about our guest who's writing a novel, but she's not willing to give us any tidbits on her mystery novel, I think it was. I'm going to read you her bio and then we'll get into the conversation. So, Krista Walsh. She is a website copywriter and strategist who helps service-based founders attract and convert premium clients with websites that do the selling for them. With 7+ years of experience, she knows how to turn an outdated, underperforming website into a powerful sales tool that matches the caliber of her clients' work. Love that. We don't have to do all the sales work front to front or face to face. That's perfect. Her done for you approach, messaging, design, and SEO means her clients don't have to stress about the details. Instead, they walk away with a website that positions them as the go-to in their niche and helps them land bigger opportunities. And the results? More booked calls, premium clients saying yes faster, chef's kiss, we love that, and dream inquiries rolling in from organic channels. And personally, I feel so strongly about organic reach for people. We don't need to keep paying all these ads. Powerful, but we don't need to keep putting all this money into ads. So welcome to the show, Krista.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the way you read that and added your own intonation to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So tell me about your background. Give us a little taste of who you are.
Yeah, so my background is copywriting, as you heard from my bio. Started as a freelance writer while I was living in Spain, teaching English abroad in an elementary school. And then I moved back to the United States and really kicked off my freelance career as a writer and marketer. Since then, it's grown to really specializing in websites for service-based founders. And now I partner with some very excellent designers to give people a complete product. So the final website in totality, the messaging, the copy, and the SEO foundations that they need.
Okay, so I did not know that you traveled abroad. What was the reason behind that?
Yeah, the reason was being 22 and graduating from college and not feeling drawn to the office life that I had experienced through my internships and various jobs throughout college.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, forget that. And I moved to Spain where I got a job teaching English in elementary school, mainly so I could put off getting a career and travel. And it was really fun. And while I was over there to earn some extra travel money and sort of continue on the area that I was interested in, writing and marketing and all of that, I started freelancing.
Very cool. Wow, what a trajectory. I feel like none of us go into the roles that we have very streamlined. The thing that we studied in school or that we planned on starting out with is not the thing that we end up doing.
I'm sure. I mean, how can you really know? Like when you're 18 to 22 or whatever, like, yeah. I mean, God bless you if you did know, but I certainly did not.
Believe it or not, I totally thought I was going to be a high school history teacher.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Not the move, not
Did
with
you
the
get an
words.
education degree? Like, did you go the full, like,
Very education adjacent. So I
mm,
studied human development and family studies, which is really just me studying how interpersonal relationships happen on the family level. And then I was like, oh, I could probably teach. No, I feel like that everybody says the children are different these days, but I'm sure they said that about us.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, teaching sounds like such a hard career. My mom was a teacher, like a middle school teacher for most of my growing up, and it's a lot of work because you've got the full day at the school and then you've got the rest of the day doing grading and lesson planning and a lot.
Yeah,
So
not
yeah,
the move. I have an older
not for
sister.
me. I think if you love it, yeah.
Yeah. So something I really, really want to make sure I hit on with you specifically is I'm curious about your perspective on AI because I'm
Mm.
watching so many different people, even something as simple as a social media post I'm watching. Do you feel like you can tell when somebody used AI to write something?
I mean, I feel like I can tell, but of course, like if I feel like it's not AI and it could secretly be, so there could be all these instances where I'm missing it, but there are definitely lots of times where I do clock it definitively. Yeah.
What are the things that you are able to pluck out?
I mean, some of it's the stuff that people talk about all the time in posts of like how you can clock AI, like the syntax that it uses. Like, this is not X, it's actually this bigger Y thing, that sort of thing. Or like, let's be real, that phrase, or
Yeah.
there are certain phrases like that for sure that come up. But then some otherwise, like less syntaxy, like a lot of times it's just like, wait, what are you actually saying? Like, there's no context here. And that's usually like, there's no nuance or like real meat being said. And that's usually a sign that AI like wrote it from start to finish. Like, there was no like thought even like fed into AI. It was just like, hey, write a post about like Instagram or something like that. And it like start to finish wrote the whole thing and they copy and pasted it. Versus some of
Yeah.
the posts, like it could be like somebody wrote the post themselves or like had the idea, they fed it to AI, and it's just like the AI syntax at the end where it shaped the post with your idea, which is a different level. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I notice is all of the emojis and something about the person's personality, and you can tell you don't use that many emojis at once,
Yeah.
or the two emojis after every sentence. So how does AI starting to play into copywriting work? Is it helping? Is it hurting? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tool like anything. I mean, I don't agree with the people on like both extremes of the argument, like people who are like, you cannot use AI because it's going to replace humans. Like, I think the train has left the station. I truly do. It's sort of like, I feel like saying, like, don't use the internet. Like, of course we're going to use it. Like, like,
Mhm.
regardless of whether or not it's actually good for society or not, it's here, right? It's here, it's progressing, it's becoming more integrated into our everything. And then the other people who are like, if you're not already using it in everything you ever do, you're already behind, and like that sort of fear mongering. Um, I definitely don't resonate with the extremes, but I do use it. And I think it's just understanding, like using it a lot in practice to get a feel for how to use it as a tool, like any tool. So one of the keystone parts of my process, if clients are open to it, is I interview their past and current clients who match their like ideal client avatar. So
Mhm.
we can ask them these really pointed questions and like experience their like buying journey and understand where their mindset is at this point of decision, and then shape the copy to meet them there. Right. So in the past, before the large language models came onto the scene, I would have all these interview transcripts. They're each 30 minutes long. So it's like 10 to 15 pages of transcript, and I would do up to 8 of them. So I'd have all these words and I would literally kind of go through the highlighter and highlight things and then put them all into a spreadsheet and then like manually like point out the patterns and what they were saying,
Mhm.
and the messaging points. That took upwards of 10 hours. At one point, I was paying somebody $1,000 per project to do this for me because it's so time consuming. With like Claude and ChatGPT and these sort of large language model AI, like I now can use them to do that work for me. So I'm still super familiar with interviews. I did them, I read them before I do this, like reread them, but then I will upload them to the model. and
Mhm.
I will like tell it to look for certain, like look for things that they said about their hiring mindset, look for their pain points, look for their desires, look for what they said about this business's unique selling proposition. And then anything you tell me, back it up with a direct quote from the transcript. So that has shortened the process so much. It takes me now like a couple of hours instead of like 10 plus 15.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the quality of work is similar, right? If you know how to prompt it, and since this is part of my process, I do. So stuff like that, I'm like in love with it for that kind of stuff because it saves me so much time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'd use a similar process when I'm looking for like social media clips or um funny enough that that's probably almost exactly the same process that I'm using when we're taking an episode and turning that into a blog post. It makes things so much faster, and you're able to there's a difference when you're interviewing different people and talking to people versus when they're just writing something down. You're able to actually pick up on the actual words that they're using, which plays a role in keyword research, which is a part of what you do when you're trying to attract the right kind of clients for specific people. um, how would you describe
Totally.
keyword research?
Sure. It's basically like a large part of Google algorithms is like literally looking for the words that are used in a piece of content or on a website and how closely they match to what somebody's intent is when they're Googling. So it's like matching Google searcher to results that they show. So the keywords are like common phrases that people have used over and over and over again to look up um, something related to what you do. So for you, it might be like words like podcast management, or you could get even more detailed podcast management for health coaches or whatever people are searching for. So you want to find those terms and then be able to use them in your content.
Which takes being able to know your audience to another level. Because I feel like in the business world, we always say, know your audience. But what does that actually mean? It's the literal words that people are using in order to describe what the problems that they have, essentially.
Yeah, totally. And with SEO, like I always remind people, this isn't, yeah, the algorithms, whatever, blah blah blah, but it's really, you're trying to show up for humans, so it's not as like technical as people might think, at least not like the part that I do, the copywriting and the keyword research part.
Sure.
um a lot of it's using your common sense. Like I do use tools to help me see like maybe there's one term that has a lot more search volume than this other way of phrasing it, right? Like so I want to probably lean more into that way of phrasing it because it's showing me that like 1,000 people are searching for this versus like 50. But at the end of the day, like you also are using your judgment. Like you're like, wait, maybe the tools got it like this has a lot of search volume, but it's actually not relevant to my client, right? Because what's coming up is like jobs and not like people looking to hire somebody as a contract, like that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of human element involved in it and like common sense.
Yeah. So, what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing service based business owners make when they're trying to capture their knowledge of their ideal client into copywriting?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to depart from SEO for this answer because I think something I see over and over again is people trying to sell what they do or like the thing that they offer to clients on their website instead of selling like you specifically, your company specifically. So for like, let's use you for an example. Like if your homepage and services pages were full of messaging like here is why you need podcast management and strategy, like, and it's like these pain point sections that are like here's how like your life is bad or your business is bad without podcast management strategy, here's how it's going to make your life so much better. This is really common because it's sort of like we take these like old school copywriting frameworks and if you apply them with like a blunt instrument, that's how it works out. But if you think about where your website as a service business comes into your overall marketing and sales channels, it's bottom of funnel. And if you're not a marketer, that just means like it's kind of the last step on the journey for your ideal clients before they book you. So before they like reach out to book you, right? Whether they're coming through Google search or through Instagram or through a podcast or whatever, like you care about those people when they are like, I need somebody, I need a podcast manager. Let me check out iMoves management, right? Let me go there and check it out. So they're in this like hiring decision mode. So your website doesn't need to convince them that they already need your thing because they are already aware of that. If they're truly your ideal client ready to hire, they need to be convinced about like why you specifically, so your method, your IP, like your whatever your unique selling proposition is, your philosophy, maybe it's your personality and fit isn't coming in through that way. That needs to come through a lot stronger so that they feel clear about why they should choose you and why they think you are probably the best fit to help them get to the place they want to go versus anyone else. So you're kind of wasting a lot of space if you're convincing them of something that they already know.
Mm, that is very good because they use those specific words in order to they know what their pain point is already. Do I know, like, and trust you?
Yeah, totally. That's another way of putting it. And I think people forget this because there are all kinds of people that visit your website. Like there will be people who could be potential clients, but they're not ready to invest yet. So they are way earlier on the journey. So they maybe do need to understand like what podcast management is and why they might need that. But on your website, don't care about them because they're you're never going to convince somebody if you charging expert rates like 4 to 5 figures for your services, like very rarely are you going to convince somebody from going like, I don't even know if I want a podcast to, okay, I'm going to pay you like $1,000, $10,000 to like manage it for me. Like that's not going to happen. So don't care about them. Like only speak to the person who is like, they're already convinced they need it. They want somebody like you. They're just trying to decide who that person is. So that is the client that your website needs to be shaped to. And I think that gap is a mistake I see a lot because your website is way different. It's a sales tool. It's not like the rest of your social media content where you are doing more like nurturing stuff um, to get people ready. You want to speak to people who are already ready.
That is a really good way to put it. And I don't know that I've heard any other copywriter talk about it in that way. A lot of times I hear people talk about it as far as explain what you do because they don't know. You need to dumb it down, for lack of a better way of saying that. When whereas you're saying it's more so, do we know who you are? Can I trust you to complete the job?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, you have to be clear about what it is you're doing. Like, you don't want to like be unclear or something. But
Mhm.
I think if your client, this is where, like, if you are a service based business, like you are providing done for you services or like expert level consulting or something like this, like the clients I work with, your clients are different from the people most copywriting advice is geared toward. Like your clients are sophisticated, they've been around the block, they have the money to invest thousands of dollars and they're ready to do it for the right person that they believe can take them to where they want to go. It is not the same client as like a course creator who is like selling to like a new business owner or somebody who's like just getting into fitness or that kind of thing. That messaging is a lot different. That messaging is a lot more like dumbed down, like we have to like explain what it is, because those people don't know. Like, but premium clients who are investing like at a certain level with you, they 9 times out of 10, because I've interviewed a million of them for my clients, 9 times out of 10, they've already done the hiring before, or they've like tried other solutions before, or they're just really confident that they're at this place now where they're like, I don't want to like, you know, F around and find out, right? Like I want to get the right hire the first time. So they're discerning and they don't need to be like talked down to a lot because they probably uh, they get it already basically.
Yeah. They show up ready to say yes, which is essentially or literally what you said in your bio, I want to say. So you mentioned bottom of the barrel as far as your whole sales and marketing funnel. Think back, and I feel like we forget that TikTok is still on the plan to be removed from the United States. Um, I'm seeing so many different people who use Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, even, which is how you and I met, as the very first place or the main driving tool for their business. And as TikTok started to get banned and always, or the conversation around that started to happen, um, a lot of people were concerned and they were afraid. What's your first reaction to that? What were you thinking as all of that was unfolding as a person that builds websites, as a person that writes copy for websites?
You're asking like my reaction to the TikTok being potentially banned.
Yes.
Um, I was mildly interested. So I'm not on TikTok, so it really did not affect me in any way.
Okay.
So yeah, my interest was I was just sort of like curious about what would happen. But that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay. You're the very first person that I know that has not had a strong opinion about it, one way or the other. Because everybody else is like, I didn't need to be on the website anyway. I'm going to take this as my opportunity to get some of my attention span back. Whereas other people were more so, this is how I run my business. How am I going to do that? And then that started making me think about places like Instagram, where Instagram can go down, or it has gone down at least once or twice every other month.
Mhm.
There's something that has created some version of barrier. What do you say to the person that their business begins and ends on social media as a person who builds basically the house for somebody's business?
I did think about what you're saying too. Like when I was thinking about the social platforms that I am on, mainly LinkedIn and Instagram,
Uh-huh.
if one of those were to disappear, that would obviously affect me quite a bit. Um, but I think it did just convince me that I should stay on the path, which is diversifying where clients are coming from. So strong relationships that exist outside of social media, building an email list, multiple platforms that are not all owned by the same company, so not all meta platforms, etc. And then in terms of a website, yeah, I have always kind of felt that you need a website, even if you're like an Instagram influencer and people will just like buy from a link in your stories because they've followed you for 5 years and they implicitly trust you and what you're selling isn't that much anyway. Like, yeah, I do think you should have some sort of website. I don't think everybody is in the place where it feels necessary to invest like $10,000 plus in a website, but it's pretty low lift to get some sort of online presence outside of a platform that you own. So it's sort of like why not at this point? Like just buy a template, get a domain, get that up there, girl, like just do it.
Yeah, that's true. I liken a website to, if you are wanting to invite people into your space, into your close knit circle, are you going to meet them at the local Walmart, or are you going to invite them to the house for a dinner? Are you going to set out the plates? Are you going to allow them to take off their shoes? Because if you're meeting, I'm just down the street from a Walmart, which is why I'm thinking about this. If you're meeting somebody at a Walmart, that doesn't offer the opportunity for people to be on your turf to help you easily say yes, especially when an example I gave in a workshop the other day was, a lot of people start podcasts, and the only website that they have, even for that podcast, is the one that comes along with the hosting platform. But Transistor, Spotify, all around on that website is trying to get you to use their service instead of, and that's blocking people away from investing in the time that you have or whatever offer that you have on the page. Same thing with Instagram and TikTok and Facebook.
Yeah, completely. Also, do you meet friends at Walmart to hang? Like, is that like a real?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
That's hilarious.
I was like, cultural difference. Okay. Like, no judgment, girl. That's your thing. Like, uh,
Terrible example. Terrible example. You know what I meant.
yeah, yeah, I got you. It is like the level of intimacy, like inviting people to your house is way different. It's like, okay, we're real friends here. I totally get it.
Yeah. So, what metrics do you consider when you're evaluating the success of a single website?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, mostly what I want to hear is clients saying like, "Hey, I'm getting inquiries through my site." Like a lot, like sometimes clients like kind of have never used their site really, like they have it, but they just don't use it. Like they don't link to it, they don't have it linked anywhere, and so they sort of have this idea that like, well, I guess it just is a thing that exists, right? And it's fine, but um when my clients start seeing that it can work for them as like a sales tool in and of itself, that's really exciting. So I want people to be saying like people are reaching out through my site and they're really great fit clients, it seems like. And then all they have to do is close the sale. Um, Other metrics we'll look for, like from the SEO side of things, is we get access to our clients' Google Search consoles. So we'll see and be able to track to hopefully see the impressions going up, your average position in Google search going up, or I guess going down technically because you want to get to page one, right? But improving. So a couple different things. Yeah.
Very good. Can you talk to me about your business and your business model as a whole? What does that look like?
Sure. So the main thing I do is website builds. So it's me doing like leading the project, creative vision, strategy, and the copy. So interviewing your clients, figuring out messaging, laying out layouts and information hierarchy per page so that we can reach your goals. And then I have some excellent design partners who are just truly special at what they do, and they will bring it to life in a design that matches your brand and is also like aligned conversion wise, and develop it out so it's functional and live. And then I just launched, I don't, it'll be a minute by the time this goes live in May, but I have a new entry level service called the Website Blueprint Intensive. So this is for people who know they need a new site, but they aren't ready for whatever reason, financial, time, stress, to start the website process like right away or like go ahead and commit to it. So this is basically, we do an intensive with me where I am helping them plan every aspect of their site so that when they are ready, they can hit the ground running and be really prepared. So we're talking about like, we're creating your site map. So what the structure of your website should look like, you know, which pages you should have, what your navigation menus should be, how people should flow through the website, as well as messaging shifts. So looking at their current site and then when they tell me like here's who I actually work with and who I want to like, what opportunities I want more of, like what are the gaps and what they're currently saying and what their shifts need to be.
Very cool. I think that's a very smart way of the intensive specifically is a very smart way of doing it because a lot of times, being that you and I both offer fairly premium services, people are not always 100% ready to take that leap, mainly because of the time commitment. And it's an undertaking to be able to start something of this caliber, whether that's a website or a podcast or whatever service that they're adding to their business. So I think that that was smart. Go you.
Yeah. I mean, it's like entrepreneurship. You see a gap, you try to fill it. That's what I'm trying to do. Because how many times have you heard somebody say, like, I know I need a new website, but you can just like feel the stress in their words and their body language. Because it's a big undertaking. It's like an anchor point for your business, so it has to last quite a while. So you do want to get it right.
Yeah.
And so this is going to help people get some momentum now, kind of alleviate a lot of that stress, so they'll have a plan or like a blueprint, as I'm calling it, for when they are ready.
Nice. And you recently became a what S corp, correct?
Yes. Oh, did we talk about that? Yeah, I did this year. Woohoo!
Congratulations. What's the plan? What's the plan for your business?
Yeah, so this year I want to totally steer the ship toward like my little team, like me and my design partner, whoever is on that project, to sort of move away from the copywriting only identity and really embrace this, because I think the final results are just so much better when I can take ownership over the design and development process and the SEO results as we, you know, as time goes on for clients. So I'm looking into, you know, shifting my own website to reflect that, and establishing those foundations. And then looking ahead, I want to really document my IP. So the way I do things, I would like to get that documented so that I can scale in some way, whether it's like training other copywriters to do what I do,
Mhm.
or maybe teaching people to do it for themselves in some sort of course. Not sure yet, but that's where I'm headed.
Very smart. I love that. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so we talked about that founder interview, which is how people move into that's how you are able to move people into understanding what it is their service is. right? Their service, their business, and all of the information that you need to know about how other people are talking about their business. Am I mixing up the wording here?
Maybe a little bit. So the client interviews that I do that we talked about,
Yes. Mhm.
yeah. So that's where let's say like we were working together, like I would say like connect me with up to 8 people that in your like client Rolodex from past years or current years that really match the type of client that you want to work with moving forward. And then I interview them like over Zoom or the phone separately from you.
And then the founder interview is what? How is
That's
that
like the
different?
interview with you, the founder. So I do also want to hear, like, obviously, I want to talk to your clients, but a huge part of it is like making sure it also aligns with your vision as the founder and like your overall brand aesthetic and all of that. So I do want to talk to you a lot. So that interview is way longer. It's usually like an hour and a half to 2 hours where I'm asking you questions about, like your experience and your brand voice and like your vision for the site and all of that, so that it's really at the end of the day like a marriage of like what other people think and are saying, the people you need to speak to hire you, and then also what you believe and want to convey. So yeah.
2 hours. That's so intimate. But people like talking about themselves.
Yeah, I've done it a million times, and I've just found that's what it needs to be. So but that's basically the only interview that I need from the founder. So I'm trying not to do like a ton of different calls. Like it's just like find 2 hours somewhere in your schedule where we can like really get into it. Um yeah.
Wow. Okay. Um, my first thought is so there was a previous episode that um, she was a social media manager and she talked about sending prompts to people week to week to get them to start thinking about what's going on in their day to day, what's going on in their life, so that their content is not disjointed from um, what's being put out there and what their life is experiencing. That sounds fairly similar to the client interviews and founder interviews, so that you're fully invested into that. I've again interacted with so many different web developers and designers and copywriters where they're just down to the bells and whistles of this is what this website can look like, and we're going to put your color code here, here, and here. Whereas you're more so invested in telling that specific person's story. And on your own website, beautiful job, by the way. Your own website
Oh, thank you.
does that very well.
Yeah. So I think what you're like, look, if you're a designer only and like all you do is design websites, I don't think you need to talk to people's clients because like, clients don't really have strong opinions usually about like what colors a brand should, like that sort of thing or like brand aesthetics. Um you'd probably, I mean, you do some market research and stuff like that, but the reason I do it is cuz like I'm messaging and copywriting first and that sort of leads all our website projects.
Right.
And if a client is open to it, I really want to do it. It just helps us go way beyond what somebody's going to write in a testimonial, which tends to be like all positive. And I really want to, not that I'm not asking people for like negative feedback, but I mean, like, I'm wanting them to journey back with me into that moment before they decided to like reach out. Like using you as an example again, like what led them to get to the point where they were ready to start a podcast, and then what was the trigger that made them think like, okay, I need like expert help with this, and then who were like considering, like what people were they looking at, why did they decide to reach out to you, and then why did they decide to actually choose you, and then as through the process, like what was standing out to them, like in their memory, like what stands out can be really huge. So all this stuff just really helps us write without a founder blind spot where you're kind of like, the only feedback you really get from clients is like in sales calls, and most people don't record those. If you do, awesome. I don't like to do it because I feel like it's weird recording a call with somebody I just met, but like I
Yes.
but some people do, and that can be helpful. Or like the other feedback would be like a testimonial at the end, which is usually people saying like, oh my god, amazing experience, I love it, which doesn't actually tell you a whole lot about their like hiring mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. We love testimonials. We love Google reviews. However, they're not always as specific and um, feedback driven as we may want them to be.
Yeah.
With all the recordings that you have, the nosy person in me and the person that asks a whole bunch of questions is like, wonder what these are like. I need these to become like a little podcast for you. That would be so cool to hear how people move into, I don't know what I need to put on a website, to, oh my gosh, I'm sure that there's so much clarity that even they get remembering, I had this conversation with somebody. This is what helped them say yes and pull the trigger on it, or this is what made them wait 5 days in order to pay that initial invoice. All of these deep seated things. You get to be a little nosy in people's business.
Yeah, so I do think I am going to create some sort of thing with it because I've been going back through them. I have dozens, right? And they're all from people who are like hiring my clients who are like, you want to call them like high ticket, like they're experts, right? So they're not like competing on price, right?
Mhm.
So this type of client is very unique. It is different from somebody who is like struggling, and it's kind of a lot easier to write to people who are struggling because it's just sort of like you call out their struggles and you map it to a solution. But somebody who's successful and isn't panicking, their mindset's a lot different. Like, how do you talk to that person who is like, I'm successful, I want to get to my next level, or I want to make things easier for me, or whatever their desire is? So I can't publish them verbatim because they are like when I do them, I tell people like this isn't going to be public because I want people to be able to speak freely and not feel like they have to like,
Clean it up.
uh, yeah, clean it up or yeah, like monitor themselves or that kind of thing. But I'm thinking of putting together something that is like the anonymized patterns and maybe pulling out some quotes that are anonymized and sharing the findings like overall.
That would be so cool. It's like the true crime version of business, if you will. That's a probably a terrible example, but uh, the excavation, the docu series of how are people able to move either from being the struggling client to the person that is more successful. How are you talking to them differently? I would totally listen to that. Please do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna do it.
Yeah, even the way that you started talking changed. I was like, oh, we need this. I'm sure that would close the gap for a lot of different people. So one of the different aspects, I went through some of the frequently asked questions that people on your website. One of the things that you mentioned is you want to hire a copywriter before you hire a designer. And I think most people assume that you would hire that designer first because that's the container that holds everything. What is your rationale behind hiring the copywriter first?
Yeah, how do I put this neatly? Like copywriting informs design, I guess is how you would put it. So design, I get what you're saying. Like it sort of feels like you need the container and then you write into it. But the way it actually works in marketing is the design is like the wrap around the copy. So, for example, if you are a designer and you don't know what a page is going to say, it's really hard to design the web page because you're just sort of like bloop bloop like box box box, like I don't
Yeah.
know, like you don't know what you're designing for. It's I mean, I don't know what a good analogy would be like, but that's just the way it is. And so it makes the copywriting better because you're not just trying to plug into random boxes that were created without knowing the purpose of the box. And then designers love it. I collaborate with a lot of designers on my team and other teams, and they just love it because it makes their designs a lot better because they can design to emphasize the right words. Like a really great website designer understands that it's not about beautiful design at the end of the day. Like, yes, design and brand matter a lot to the feel that somebody gets, but the actual like page by page design is about bringing forward the right messages, right? So you don't want people to like look at your site and be like, wow, that's a beautiful website, unless you're a web designer, maybe like that's the exception. But like you mainly want them to like read the information that they need to read to say like, wow, this is so for me. And so design and copy coming together is what makes that happen, and it works best when copy comes first.
I that reminds me of a phrase that I heard years ago where the question was, if you have an elephant, how are you going to put the elephant in the refrigerator? Do you get a bigger, it's it's in the educational world. Do you get a bigger refrigerator, or do you chop up the elephant and put the elephant in the refrigerator?
Ooh.
Morbid example, however, but that's, you get to decide, do I build my world around what people need, or do I just keep building the world? Or do I build the website more specifically around the copy, or do I build the copy to fit the website? And the copy is really centered around who your end user is, who your client is. That's what,
Yeah. So you're saying the right answer is to like get a bigger fridge, like build a bigger fridge. Is
yes,
that
of course.
okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Between Walmart
totally.
and this bigger fridge, this is a interesting episode. Um,
I'm tracking with you. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
so, with our last couple of minutes before we get to our faith note, you talked about S Corp, you talked about being 7 years into your business journey, right? Total 7+ years.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenging parts of the you being the business owner, not just the copywriter? And how has that road been for you?
There are, I mean, it is challenging and I kind of love it. I was thinking about this, why wouldn't I just do this for somebody else? Like do this full time for a company, and it's because I love the work that I do, but I really love the business part. It is this sense of like creating something from nothing, like really putting your vision out into the world and shaping it the way you want to shape it, like being able to see gaps in your world and then create solutions to it. It just feels so generative and good. And I don't want to lose that, So, you know, um, your question was like, what's challenging? Um, a lot of it is. I would say I struggle most with mindset stuff, probably like uh self-doubt creeping up, like, oh my god, like did I make the wrong decision, like that sort of thing. Am I really like allowed to work with this level of client, like I can't believe they trusted me, like all this sort of stuff that comes up again and again for me that I feel like I'm constantly working through. um that's probably the most challenging.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome, I try not to claim that, because I'm not trying to take on another identity, but that is a very real thing. I can't tell you how many times I will have a conversation with people, and I'm like, you're trusting me with this? This is a full yes, no, no stop.
I know.
Everything is good. But on the outside, I'm saying, oh yeah, we got that. We could totally do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yes, so I can totally empathize with that. And I think over time, either I don't think the voice really goes away. I think it just gets a little bit quieter, and how much attention you give it anyway in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and I think there are like it sort of feels like the same sort of mindset stuff of like, oh my god, I can't believe this kind of stuff, and like, am I ready, can I do it? But the thing that it's coming up for now is like at a higher level and at a higher level, right? Like I remember when I first started, like back when I'm living in Spain and freelancing and all of that, my first website project was like a 5-page website copywriting project and I charged $400. And quoting that price was so scary because I was like, can I receive $400 for a piece of writing? Like it was, and now like the types of things that I'm like feeling this way about are just like obviously like way beyond that. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it'll ever go away, but I think like when it comes up, we'll just keep like ratcheting up and ratcheting up. And so I'm trying to trust that like the voice doesn't mean that it's wrong or that it's actually true. It's just like a sense that like I am ratcheting up, in that moment, maybe.
Hmm. Which helps you better align with your clients as well, probably too, because they're hearing that voice even when they're making the decision to work with you. Is this
Maybe,
a
yeah.
is
That's
this a
insightful.
decision? Am I going to start the podcast? Am I going to redo the website? Oh my gosh! Which sounds like the intensive that you had was a response, or could have been a version of a response to that, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Okay, so we have our faith notes. So I tend to get this feel so that people know where this is coming from. It's kind of along the lines of what we just talked about as far as the little thoughts in the back of your mind. The iMoves Management and Coffee Chats podcast is all based in the scripture Matthew 17:20. If you have even just a faith of a mustard seed, you can move the mountain from here to there. You can tell the mountain to move from here to there, and it will. And it takes a whole lot of faith to wake up every single day and decide, I'm going to figure out how to pay for myself to eat, or I'm going to figure out how to solve this problem for myself or for my clients. So I try to leave us off with a little faith note. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I think I don't have a pithy way of saying it, but I guess something about like if you have the vision, like there's no reason that it can't come true for you. And I think the faith for me comes into like holding the vision and believing I can have it and not wavering, right? Because those moments of self doubt will come up and say, like, you should just quit, and go get a job at Starbucks or, like, God forbid, in corporate America or whatever. Like, those moments come up, but like, I have to believe that, like, if I want something bad enough, like, why not me? Like, why couldn't I do it? Other people are doing it. Like, why not me? There's nothing like inherently broken about me or wrong about me that I couldn't get there. And so I spend, 30 minutes every day kind of like reminding myself of what my vision is and then addressing what comes up in response to that, like the naysayers inside me or whatever. And just trying to anchor back into like, yeah, it if you want it, like you can make it happen for yourself. And you kind of have to have that self-belief. Or I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like that felt like a little mic drop. Um, it quite resonated with me. I love that.
I couldn't actually drop this mic because it's like strapped in. Sorry.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about your craft, talking to us about your business, and making time for this, Krista.
Yeah, this was so great. I think you're onto something really cool here with this podcast and the concept. And I love the question at the end. I'm not a religious person in that way, but energetics, mindset, whatever you want to call it by a different name, like I totally agree. It matters so, so much in business. So I appreciate that.
You've been listening to Coffee Chats podcast from iMoves Management, a marketing agency serving small business owners. This episode was written, hosted, produced, and edited by me, Tahjma VanBuren. If you want to learn more about anything you heard on the show, schedule your coffee chat using the link in the description. We'll talk all things podcasting and how to use it as a true marketing strategy for you and your small business. Go to imovesmanagement.com for further information. Thank you to our listeners for supporting the show. Bye.